Hey everyone, it's Alex, and today we're talking about the top 10 best decks in Marvel Snap for Pool 2 players. Let's dive right in. Here are all the decks. Let's get a quick breakdown of each one. Basically, what we're talking about here is Devil Odinsaur. This is one of the absolute top decks in the game for Pool 2 players. You get Devil Dinosaur nice and early in Pool 1, Odin as well. You get to add the Moon Girl, which is fantastic in Pool 2, and essentially the way it works is simple. You Moon Girl the Devil Dinosaur, you can play Devil Dinosaur on turn 5, and then on turn 6, you can play Devil Dinosaur plus Rocket Raccoon to try and estimate where your opponent's going to play, and you get a lot of value there. If you don't have that play line, you can have the White Tiger into Odin combination, which is awesome. If you want to make the Devil Dinosaur bigger, you can Odin on top of things like White Queen and etc. It all depends on the play style, but honestly, this deck is fantastic. A very high win rate list for Pool 2, and one of the absolute best you can turn to. Now, if you're looking for something a little different for Devil Dinosaur, I respect that as well. And Destroy Dino kind of takes the best of both worlds, best of Destroy's early game and the best of the late game of Devil Dinosaur. Ultimately, you get a pretty solid win rate here. Basically, the way it works is you use the Bucky Barnes, the Carnage, Wolverine, and the Deathlock combination to really set up an early mid game that's advantageous to close it off with the Devil Dinosaur, Moon Girl, or White Queen. You are running Shang-Chi for the other Devil Dinosaurs, but notably here, very notably, you do have the Killmonger Nova package to beat up on the Pool 1 players still playing KaZoo decks, and that's their problem, not yours. Deck number 3, Spectrum Ongoing. Now, Spectrum Ongoing is a fun list when you're relatively new to Marvel Snap because it puts up points. Spectrum with 2+ across the board for all ongoing cards is pretty legit. Now, this deck does fall off as time goes on. It's not a particularly good Pool 3 deck, so you're going to want to move away from it, mainly because Punisher and Colossus are trash tier cards until they get buffed. Hopefully, they get buffed eventually, but realistically, Namor can hold the lane all on its own. Claw gives you the additional reach, and Iron Man into Spectrum is disgusting because the +2 gets magnified, obviously, with the Iron Man. A very capable list for Pool 2 players. If you're committed to playing KaZoo, then you have to look towards something like an armored KaZoo list where you're running armor and you're trying to zoo out as aggressively as you can. Mr. Sinister works really well with the Blue Marvel. Obviously, Kazar benefits all the 1-drops. Okoye works really well to kind of give more oomph to your 1-drops as well. The issue with this deck is it's still susceptible to Killmonger, even if you have things like Ant-Man, Sunspot, and others underneath the armor. Killmonger still wipes out a significant portion of your board, and that's why Mr. Sinister helps with the Blue Marvel to give you a little more resilience. But moving into Pool 2, Kazar can be tricky to play because of the prevalence of Killmonger. But if you're looking for legit just the highest win rate deck of the entire bunch, it's Bust a Move. It's crazy how good move decks are in Pool 2. It's really one of the best decks. And then as you move into Pool 3 and beyond, Move loses some of its luster, and hopefully it's going to get buffed over time. But realistically, you have Forge into Multiple Man into Heimdall, which is insane. You got Multiple Man, Hulkbuster, and Heimdall. It's insane. Vision is a recently buffed card that's wild. This win rate is nuts on this deck. If this is one that you want to kind of get to Infinite with early in Marvel Snap, master this list. You're going to get it done. It's difficult, but you'll get it. Then we have the On Reveal list. Now, obviously, On Reveal is an archetype that a lot of people really like in Marvel Snap, and here's the best iteration, the highest data win rate version of On Reveal. It's using Gamora Odin, which lets you go super vertical if you have to, but the key thing about this deck is you are running cards that let you go horizontal as well. So if you play down early cards like Medusa, Star-Lord, and others, and in other lanes, and what you can do is you can Ironheart and you can White Tiger, and when you Odin on top of that on turn 6, the Ironheart will reproc, and then the White Tiger will send another Tiger out as well. So the result is you're going to go pretty wide while still going pretty vertical with the Odin. A pretty good deck. Take some practice to pilot from a macro perspective, because like the Medusa and the way you position is kind of important, but honestly, it's pretty damn solid. Now, one of my absolute favorite decks, and the one that I used to rank up when I was in Pool 2, was Infinaut Control. The reason why I like this deck is because I think it makes you a better player, learning how to use control elements in Marvel Snap. And the key thing here is that you want to use Sunspot behind armor to protect the armor from Killmonger. You storm that location, so basically the Sunspot's more or less always going to win that location. You can even follow up the storm location with Jessica Jones. You skip turn 5, buffing up the Sunspot by additional 5, and then you drop the Infinaut on turn 6, which is basically near impossible for your opponent to contend with unless you have initiative, and then they Shang-Chi it with a nice guess. So that's one of the risks that you play when you're playing Infinaut Control, so bear that in mind. And of course, initiative based on whose name is highlighted before the start of a turn. Discard in Pool 2. Now, Discard and Destroy are interesting because I know there's a lot of people that are really interested in these archetypes, and they're still good, but their win rates are a little lower compared to some of the other decks we've already talked about. The reason for this is because you just don't have the pieces yet. There are some cards that you unlock later on that just make these archetypes way better. So this is the statistical best version of Discard in Pool 2, currently of course, and it's good. It'll get you dubs, it'll get you wins, but it's not the flashiest deck here, although it is fun. I do like the Discard archetype, but I tell you, it gets better as you enter Pool 3 and beyond, and Destroy is kind of similar. Destroy is really good at the early to mid game, and that's why we kind of talked about it with the Destroy Devilsaur, right, which I thought was a really cool list, but as you get to the end game, you lose some power because you just don't have the closures that you unlock in Pool 3 and beyond. So what you're essentially required to do is play something like an Okoye, which buffs your Chavez to a 6/10, which is pretty solid, and potentially have a Sabertooth that's a 3/5, minimum 3/4. But the idea here is that on turn 6, provided you've destroyed the Sabertooth, you're able to actually play your Chavez at 6/10 and your Sabertooth at 3/4 or 3/5 into separate locations to attack. So it still has potential, right? But it's not quite the best Destroy is going to be. So if you want to play Destroy, this is statistically the best version of Pool 2 right now. However, trust me, it only gets better from here. Moving on, we got ourselves Toxic on Reveal. I really like this list because it mixes the best of multiple worlds. On Reveal continues to be a really strong list, but the idea of, having the Killmonger element just to destroy your opponent's zoo-based cards. You can even sub the Iceman out and add Nova if you so wish. I really like the idea of running Storm Jessica Jones. I love Spider-Woman to trade effectively with zoo-based decks. Of course, Enchantress counters Devil Dinosaur and the ongoing abilities of KaZoo and Blue Marvel. But most importantly, guys, you have location control. You have a Lizard into Enchantress, which removes the... If you play Enchantress on top of Lizard, it removes the negative ongoing, which is fantastic. Huge power spike. It's just a good deck. It takes some practice to pilot, but if you figure it out, you'll be off and running. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's helpful. I'm going to have links to each deck down in the description and in the comments section down below. With that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If it was helpful, consider subscribing. I cover Marvel Snap nearly every single day, and I keep you up to date with the meta and the best decks in the game. Thank you so much. I hope to see you in our next Marvel Snap video.